iHeartMedia caught in a Showola scandal? What's a Showola scandal? Let's get into it. Variety magazine reports iHeartMedia settled FCC payola investigation and agrees to adopt a new reporting measures ensuring legal compliance. So what's this about? Let's see what this is about. iHeartMedia, the largest owner of radio stations in the United States, agreed to enter into a consent decree with the FCC to settle a probe the agency launched last year into iHeartMedia's compliance with federal rules prohibiting a specific form of payola dubbed Showola, which involved radio stations pressuring artists to perform as station-hosted music shows or festivals for free or reduced payment in exchange for more favorable airtime for their song, per the FCC. That's interesting. By entering into the consent decree, iHeartMedia makes no admission of liability or violation of any law, regulation, or policy. According to the terms, the agreement released Thursday, the company also is not paying any fines related to the settlement. iHeart has denied that it's engaged in Showola practices. Look at this here. They ain't got to pay nothing. Come on now, FCC. Y'all got to do better. Under the agreement, iHeartMedia within 60 calendar days will develop and implement rigorous reporting and disclosure procedures to provide the FCC with additional insights into the relationship between spends on air and performances at live events, ensuring no prohibited pressures or relationships, according to the FCC. See how that goes. The FCC was specifically looking at whether iHeartMedia improperly was pressuring artists to perform without payment at events including the 2025 iHeart Country Music Festival in Austin, Texas. In a statement, an iHeartMedia spokesman said, "We have appreciated the recent opportunity to engage with the FCC on their questions about our live music events, including matters relating to artist appearances. As we have consistently noted, iHeart's industry-leading live music events provide unique opportunities and value to performing artists by enabling them to reach their broad and engaged audiences and enhance their careers." Basically, what they're saying is, we putting them on, we drew the audience, so the artist owes us through perpetuity. When the fact is, people come to shows to see artists. They don't come to just see iHeartRadio hearts all over the place. They come to see the artists. It shows you how these corporations are, how they devalue artists. Let's keep going. And as we have also noted, iHeart does not promise artists additional airplay if they perform at iHeart Music event, or less airplay if they decline. Of course, you don't say it, you imply it. Like, ain't nobody going around saying, okay, you must. We all understand that this is what's implied. The company statement later continued, "We take our compliance with the sponsorship identification laws very seriously." No, you don't. "We already have practices and procedures in place to address them." Bull crap. "We have appreciated the opportunity to work with the chairman, Carr, and his staff to develop industry-leading approaches to augment our existing procedures to ensure continued compliance in connection with our live events." Sounds like a bunch of BS to me. "We were pleased to reach a resolution and thank the chairman and his staff for their time and focus." Of course you please. You didn't have to pay no money. You got caught red-handed, and you don't have to admit guilt, and you don't have to pay money. So yeah, of course you please. San Antonio-based iHeartMedia. They based in San Antonio? No wonder iHeart ain't got no flavor with the music that they play. Has a footprint of more than 860 owned radio stations in 160 markets across America. And that's what I want to talk about right there. We got to always understand a major reason why music sucks these days, in general, the popular music, is that we're now 30 years into the 1996 Telecommunications Act, signed February 1996 by Bill Clinton, which basically took out all competition in the markets. Before 96, the national radio couldn't own local radio, and you couldn't own multiple stations in one market. So you had a diversity of radio stations, and those radio stations competed for ad dollars through local businesses, local car lots. That's why, like here in LA, back in the 90s, you used to always hear that Universal City Nissan song on Power 106. It was local businesses that was promoting and keeping the radio stations afloat. So even though payola did exist, and it's always existed, and it probably always will exist, radio stations have to balance between taking payola and playing good music, because you had to rely on local sponsorships, and local sponsorships relied on listeners, and listeners only listened if the music was good. You couldn't just play one artist 5 times an hour and keep people listening back in the day. Exception here or there if a song was hot for about a 1 or 2 month period. You can maybe get away with, playing Michael Jackson, Remember the Time, once an hour. But outside of that, you had to have a diversity. You had radio stations breaking local talent. You had like those Friday and Saturday night mix downs there where people would call in and talk about the hottest local artists and the radio would play. Radio had to do something to engage the local listener. Since the Telecommunications Act, companies like iHeart got to just basically buy up all the radio stations in all the cities, own multiple radio stations in the city, and play wherever the hell they want to play. You know what I mean? They're not really beholden to the listener, because what you gonna do? You gonna listen to my station over here on 101.8, or you're gonna listen to my other station over here on 4.7, or my other station on 92.3. That's how it works. And then now they get these national sponsors. They get Coke, Pepsi, the big boys. So the radio stations aren't even reliant on local radio. So when that happens, businesses, businesses play radio. You have, to say, okay, you don't listen to radio in your car. Fine. Their business is playing radio 24/7, and they don't have to necessarily rely on the consumer and what they want. And so we don't really get the diversity of artists anymore. And now you look at something like this, we're already dealing with a lack of diversity in the artists that you guys put out. Now the artists that you do put out, you making them, allegedly, according to this paperwork right here, perform for free or discounted rates. Let's think about the artists right here. At what point, what does, like how many ways or is the industry going to beat the artists? You got the Live Nation, Ticketmaster monopoly that they've been talking about, that's stealing from artists and charging artists these crazy rates for their venues. You got the record labels that don't want to fund, music like they used to. And when they do put music out there, telling the artist how to sing, what kind of production to put together, not allowing the artist to be free. And then once the artists go through all that rigmarole and all that stuff, they got to deal with performing for free just so you can, for exposure. Man, exposure is what you give an open mic comic. You don't give an artist that developed a following and a fan base exposure for free. You got to pay them. You want 160 radio stations and you can't pay artists? And then they come with the BS. The FCC is committed to ensuring that artists, especially up-and-coming ones, get a fair shake. Well, FCC, if you really cared about that, then you would have fined them, and you would have fined iHeartMedia, and you'd have taken that fine and you'd have paid the artist yourself. Remember, it was the FCC that allowed that okayed this Telecommunications Act. They were okay with this. So when you look at what's going on right now in music and what's going on, it's things like this, it's little things like this that really, really get in the way of good music coming out. Artists getting beat at every single turn. So iHeartMedia, man, this is a shame on y'all. The payola thing, when it comes to artists going number one, that's all payola, allegedly, according to the people who are in the industry. It takes some good money to get your record to the top, to the charts. How about y'all regulate that, FCC? Why is it not a fair game what artists get to the top? Why is a certain artist get favored in the algorithm? Why is it that people who are out there in music say things like, it takes $500,000 to get your album charted in the top 5, to go to number 1? Is that all not payola? That's the music industry, folks. I don't know what it is. Make sure y'all hit the like button, leave a comment. Please tell me what you think in the comments with this. Donate to the Black American Music Family Tree Historical Foundation. This is sad. Y'all have no ending to how you guys find ways to beat artists. Do better, FCC. Do better, iHeartMedia. And do better by your artists.